Happy to do that.
Cool, keep going.
Yeah. So, you know, I'll just repeat that. So, you know, it's really clear that you've understood the basic language, you know, the concepts of variables, the concept of relationships between variables, the concept of directionality and supporting and opposing. And as you say, you know, having had a go in Miro, you're now seeing that the sort of spaghetti that can start to emerge can be a bit of a problem to untangle and understand.
Yeah.
And you know, so the next stage really is having a look at a tool that can help us with that, which is of course Vensim. And okay, so we've got the spaghetti here.
This is what we don't want anymore. Yep.
Well, and the thing is, you see, to take that and put it into Vensim can feel, you know, it is some effort.
Right.
But I think for you and your development, it's effort that would be worthwhile. Yep. And I think we could focus on that today, and you know, looking at some of those questions. I don't know whether I shared with you the FedWiki page that I've got, the frequently asked questions for CLDs.
I don't think so. I got your was it 6 questions from the email? So if that's
yeah, that's true, isn't it? I didn't. Hold on. Let me pop it in the chat. Because you'll see that what I did was I lifted the questions effectively from this. So I'm just going to put that in. There we go. And this is in different categories. So the first category of questions that you'll see on there are the bigger questions about the system of focus, which were the questions that we originally used to elicit variables that you put into the Google Doc. You'll recognize these.
I have.
Then you'll see there's another set of questions. You've seen this.
Yep.
Which is questions to extend a CLD. Then there's another set of questions which are about verification. And then another set of questions about designing an intervention. Those are more limited, but you'll see that. So there are some questions which I use time and time again there, which crop up really regularly.
Yep.
And you'll see, you know, I browsed over your diagram, and I didn't go into the point about wording or anything like that, but I did look at things like dangles and cul-de-sacs, and you know, what's actually missing here. Other things missing, and have we got multiple routes, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how do we want to go about this? I mean, probably the easiest thing is if I show you Vensim, and then some of those questions that I had could be addressed as the diagram transports itself with your aid into Vensim.
Yeah, that's good, because that should get us addressing at least the 2 fundamental things that I'm seeing, which one is like learn Vensim skills, and the other is like develop what we've started with the causal loop diagram a little more.
Yeah.
I
mean, ultimately, you know, I mean, Mark, you probably heard Mark say this a few times, that we're developing the capacity to do these kinds of things directly within the FedWiki. But until that's developed, I would say that, you know, Vensim is the tool of choice, partly because it's free. At least as a public learning copy, it's free, whereas all of the other system dynamics software is generally not free.
Yeah.
So, you know, that this is where I'm coming from here. Okay, let me share, and you'll recognize this. Are you on Windows or Mac?
Mac.
Okay, so you were able to download it for Mac, because I know Mark had difficulties with that.
Yeah.
Oh, great. That's really good news. So basically what you get here with Vensim is just a big sheet of paper. This white space is a big sheet of paper. And we've got some tools for developing models across the top. And then we've got some tools for analysing models and looking at the results along the left. Now, the only thing that we really need for, well, two things that we need for causal loop diagrams are this tool here, which is the variable tool, and this tool here, which is the arrow tool. Yeah. So if I were to go in here and put in the little, do you remember the little two loop model that we looked at when we looked at the relationships between effort and results and motivation?
Yeah.
And then the balancing loop of the teacher intervening and correcting. If I just type that in, and you'll see how easy it is to put something in like that, and then I'll stop screen sharing and you can have a go yourself. But literally, when you hover over something, left click it, then immediately the cursor turns into the tool to create a variable.
Yep.
And all I have to do is go somewhere, wherever I decide, click, and it opens up a dialog box, a text box to put some text in. Yeah, so I'm going to put in the text that we had. So there we had a variable effort, we had a variable results, and we had a variable which was motivation. Yeah, and so that's as easy as it is to put in variables, and I can pick them up and move them around anywhere I want just by hovering over, holding down the left click and moving it back. I know it's different on a Mac, so I'm operating on Windows. So whatever it is, we can look at how you do it on a Macintosh. So putting in an arrow, again, I can go and pick up the arrow tool and my cursor turns into an arrow. And then I can either do straight lines just by clicking on a variable, then clicking to where I'm going. And if I did it like that, I would have some straight lines. If I want to curve the lines, which typically, because it's a causal loop diagram, it looks much better if it's circular. I can either grab that little circle, and then move things. The reason I often don't is because, at least to begin with, until I'm happy where everything is, I try and leave the line straight, because then as you move the things around and unravel things and make it pretty, you're not having the lines flying all over the place and mushing me out. So typically I'll do that last. The last thing I'll do is to make the circles obvious. Yeah. And then of course we had the other one, which was poorer results, more corrections, better understanding, better results. So again, oops. So I can also, if I wanted, create the curved line immediately by clicking somewhere in the middle where I want the curve to reach to, and then out. Okay. So we can also do stuff like that. The other thing that we might want to do is we might want to put in what these are. Now, at the moment, I've just put the arrows in. I've not said whether these are supporting or opposing relationship. Right. Now, the convention that I've started using is to have a solid line if it's supporting, and a dotted line if it's opposing. Yeah. So as results fall, corrections go up. That's an opposing. And literally all I did then, just show you again, if I go to the little circle again, where we can move the arrow around, so I can move the arrow around with that. But if I position the cursor above it, the arrowhead, and then right click, it opens up this dialog box, and it lets me. You can see here, I could put O or minus if I wanted to on there. So I could do this. Yeah. Yeah, and you can see it's positioned it by the arrowhead. If I think, oh, I don't like that, actually, I want it to be on that little handle and on the outside. So I could reposition the O if I want want to, and you can see it's now put it there, yeah. Or what I found, especially when you've got a complicated diagram, putting S's and O's in just means that you've got a lot of clutter on your diagram. Right. So I tend to put a dotted line for the O, like that, so that you've not got, and also because it speeds things up. You're not having to go in and put S's and O's and go through all that process that I just showed you. You literally go in, change it to the dotted line, and we're done. Right. Now, the other thing you might want to do is put a comment in there to say what sort of a loop this is. And so this is the way I tend to do it is I'll use R for reinforcing, B for balancing. And I think it was counterclockwise, wasn't it? So I just clicked the loop counter, and that will put that little thing there. So it's just saying to me, this is a reinforcing loop. You might not, often, you know, because this is a very small model with very limited variables in it, we can do this. But in the sort of big model, certainly to start off with, you'll probably find it quite difficult to identify feedback like this. And we'll come on to that. But they're the basic tools. Now, so one other thing is, if you start, whenever you've done something, you can always go back to the hand, and the hand will let you just move things around. You know, you can do the sort of things that we did. We can grab and change things, because the thing you don't want to wave around too much is that delete. Once you go around with the delete thing, you can start creating problems in your model if you inadvertently click in a place. Okay. So that's really simple, putting in variables, putting in relationships, and documenting loops. Now, the other side that we can do in here is these analysis tools. Now, this is a little bit boring to do this, but this tool here is incredibly interesting when you've got a complicated diagram like the one that you've got. Because what I can do is I can select any variable in this model. So if I select results here, and you can see it's selected, you can see what variable you've selected. And all I did to select was double click. You can see there I've got that variable results selected. Yeah. Then if I then click on loops, it's asking me if I want to save. I'm not saving it. It will then list all the loops. Now, it's quite obvious here that there are only 2 loops because it's so small. Sure. But I'm going to show you a diagram that's only slightly bigger, where it can be very difficult. Our brains don't really see feedback in systems unless they're pushed at us. Okay, so I'm going to show you a diagram in a minute that is like that. The other thing we can do in PLE is we can say results. What I want you to do is reorganize this as a causes tree. Yeah. Now, the issue with PLE, you can imagine Vensim, Ventana that produce Vensim, you know, they're a company, they're looking to make money. What they give away with PLE is very basic so that people can play with it, but it doesn't have the full capacity of the professional tool that people have to buy. And because of that, it will not reorganize the whole of this diagram. When you've paid for it, it will reorganize and unravel all of the spaghetti and create a very organized driver tree of whatever you've chosen as your variable and everything that will affect it in order, in a hierarchical order. Okay. Wow. Because Ventana know this is a very useful thing to be able to do. They don't include it in PLE. It's pretty restricted what you can do on this. However, what you can do, you can interact with the model through this. So you can then say, okay, well, I've got this window here. So what affects corrections? So I can double click on corrections within the tree, and you can see it's changed the variable name at the top, and then click on the causes tree again, and it'll give me the next level back. Yeah, so we got,
whoa,
yeah, and equally, you know, I could do the same with motivation, select motivation, do a causes tree for motivation, and we can start to see here so it's not ideal, because in an ideal world, we'd have access to Vensim Professional to do this. I've got a copy that's sitting on one of my old machines. That if we wanted to do that later, you know, I can copy things from this machine, take it through, copy it onto that machine. But because it's so old and crotchety, it won't let me. It won't let me do anything other than that. What we'd ideally like to do, and we need to have a conversation with Ventana about it, is for people like yourself that are using it, you know, in communities rather than corporations.
Right, yeah.
To be able to, you know, it'd be great if we could start to negotiate something with them so that people like you can use this and can have access to some of the tools, maybe an intermediate thing where it's PLE, but with the driver tree capacity enabled. There are other things as well that come with professional that I don't think that, you know, many people would use, because they're, you know, they're about building fully simulated, fully calibrated simulation models. And, you know, I don't think that many, you know, community organizers might want that, at least at first.
What's the price tag? What are we talking here?
You start to see how this kind of thing can be. Well, I don't know, I'll have a look at, let's have a look. Just
if it's on some old computer, you probably don't use it too often, or do you? The paid version.
Oops. Okay, I'm just looking at Vensim. Are you still with me?
Yeah, I'm also looking at the website, try to see if I can see what's going on.
Yeah, are you looking? I mean, I'm just looking at Vensim purchase, and you know, PLE using for learning purposes is the only one that's free. That's the one that we are using. Right. I'm not sure. I'll have to have a look at what PLE Plus does. I'm not sure that PLE Plus does give you the full driver trees.
Oh, I see.
I know that professional does, but I mean, you know, you're already getting up to like $478 there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm just looking here. Okay, so the Pro is $11.95. The Vensim PLE Plus is $169, but that, like you're saying, might not get us there, right? So
hold on, I'm just going to stop. I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to screen share what I was looking at, because it's got all of the. You see this? So commercial use, you know, that would be a corporation. I don't know whether what we are doing later on would be counted as public research.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and then academic.
Man.
Yeah.
Well,
so
if you're okay with doing the Kerry crossover for now, and then us talking with them would be nice to see. Yeah, I'm sure you got some pull, Kerry.
Yeah, well, it would be great, you know, it would be great if they would. I mean, the other system dynamics businesses that produce software, there's IC Systems, and you see Barry Richmond that started off IC Systems, who created Stellar, wanted this to be available to everybody, but I'll be quite honest and say I think that since he passed away, he died suddenly in his 50s. And he was the guy that originally, you know, the very first person that introduced me to system dynamics was Barry Richmond. Wow. And when he first created the first version of Stellar, I was one of the first people to use that in Europe, you know, and start using it in corporations. But I'm not sure that I think has that capacity. That's their current software. And Stellar, I don't know. I'm not sure that they have the capacity to do the driver trees that we've been talking about. So I think what we do now is let you have a go at popping something into Vensim and seeing whether you can just do that, because then you can do that freely in your own time.
Right.
Oh, this is a little bit different, isn't it?
I know. I was having to orient to the Mac version a little bit. So let's just go with household purchase. Household purchasing power. And what else do we have here? Let's get some interesting ones.
Probably the best, I guess it would be handy to have a printout, whenever I've taken something that's been done on, big sheets of paper in a workshop and then put it into Vensim, I've got the sheets of paper and I'm literally looking at it and crossing off each thing as I do it so that I know that it's included.
Oh, that's a good idea, because there's
and then I do another check, which is for each variable I count the number of arrows going in and out, and then I check those as well, that I've got the right numbers when I'm transferring it.
Oh, that's really good. Yeah, because I mean, even just like when you ask some of those questions on the email, I came back and I was like, okay, well, you're right. Like this one isn't affecting anything, or vice versa. Is it being affected by something? And then once I started like adding them, and then it was just like, it just like compounds, okay, well then what's that affected by what? So it grows really quickly is I guess what I'm trying to say. So I could see why being rigorous in the checks is
yeah.
Okay, let's see what else. Even just looking at this is gnarly. Okay, access to common pool resource. I think what I'd like to do is see if I can find any loops like you were talking about, right?
Well, you see, once you put that in, we'll be able to find them, because I'll show you in a minute just a model that's not, I don't know, I think it's smaller than the number of variables that you have there. Oh, so you've added in families moving to Superior. That was that was the thing about people wanting to raise their kids here.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. And I don't know if maybe you can help me with a better way to phrase this, but digital employment, I mean like remote employment,
Mm. Well, so I like this. Now you see, can we just flip to the My Road? Well, not the My Road, the thing, the thing behind you, just so that I can see all of it. Just like that. You see, all the questions become about saying, looking at commute times. And I was really interested because it seems that having other time to get involved in the community is heavily driven by not spending a long time commuting.
Right. Yep.
And so, well, how can we, what are the ways that we can influence that? So all the time we're asking these what else questions, what else? Well, that's very interesting, isn't it? That this is something that is going to help to free up some time. Well, how can we do that?
Right. Yeah. I mean, part of the experience of me going through this was like, this is never done. And I think it's something you even said explicitly.
But it's never done. It's always a work in process. It's always, and really good maps will continue to be emergent, because as you design interventions from them and go out and implement those interventions, you then learn, you get an answer from the system, because it kind of every intervention you make, you're saying, hey system, do you work in this way?
Are my assumptions correct?
Exactly. And so everything that you do becomes an experiment where you can learn and enhance the explicit system map that you have.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I'm getting a little ahead of the whatever, jumping the gun a little bit, but I mean, I'm really excited about the notion of part of the work that we do in our community as an organization is like convene people from other organizations on an ongoing basis to work together, and then have this as a accessible map for anyone to see, especially those who want to help our community.
Because one of the things that you can do, I could imagine this, Leo's, I can imagine having a big version of this on the wall.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Right.
And I can also imagine something else, and that is something that I always do with one of these afterwards, is to put all the variables. It's a spreadsheet basically. So you put all the variables down the left-hand side, And then across the top, you'd start with the first variable and say, okay, well, who influences that? What stakeholders? And then you put them, whatever they are in the columns, and say, okay, and by how much we could put some strength, which might be colorize it or use numbers to say, well, level 3 is really high strength influence, and these other stakeholders are lower. So, and then you start to build up a sort of a map of exactly who's influencing what right across this system.
Nice.
And who you ought to be convening to have some of the conversations you're talking about.
Right. Yeah, heck yeah. Well, I love that who, because it starts to turn it into some like very tangible actionables of like conversations that need to happen with these people.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And and it's really solid as to why you're doing that.
Yeah, and they can see it themselves too. So
yeah,
I think plenty of people are kind of like annoyed with like conversations that don't go anywhere. But this has a whole different flavor to it.
Yeah.
Okay, do I have local businesses growing? I should have come up with a better system for getting these in here, because I'm sure I'm going to miss some, and maybe that's okay. But
okay, I'm just gonna point out something with some of these new variables. The one that I can see above it, increased tourism. It's just tourism. Yeah, we've got a direction implied there.
We do have direction applied there.
Yeah, just having noticed it.
Yes. Okay. I mean, I wanted to avoid having you sit here, watch me type all this stuff in. So maybe we can.
Yeah, because this is just a learning thing. So just have a go at putting in some relationships. And then, I don't know, because it looks so different to the one that I've got on the Mac, it might be worth having a go at right-clicking on the driver tree tool, just to see whether the Mac version does allow you to do that.
Oh, that'd be nice, huh?
It would, yeah, it would if it did. As I say, I've not yet reached out to Ventana, and maybe the thing will be, it's thinking who are the right people in Ventana to speak to, about this. What's in it for them?
Right. Do they have a kind of
Oh, this is different, isn't it, as well?
Oh, I'm having to like.
Okay, so I mean, if you want to, obviously the way you change you can do a dotted line and things like that. You can change the color. Actually, it's much clearer than the one in Windows, isn't it?
Nice. Yeah, definitely looks nice. Okay, so I'm gonna say this is a dotted because, greater purchasing power means lower
household numbers. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, indeed. There was one thing as well when you opened that dialog box that we've not mentioned, and we wouldn't have it here, but I just thought if you just open it again, just so I can just make a comment on it.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the little, that circle that I right click.
Yeah, where is it?
Come back.
Is it sort of?
I'm gonna right click on the arrowhead. No.
Is it? Can I sort of see it towards the arrowhead?
Oh,
I can sort of see something.
Oh.
But it's like it's put that. Oh, there you go. You can see it now.
I had to get back onto this one here, and then it showed up again.
Yeah. So if you right click on that, do you see where there are the two tick boxes next to color? There's a default and then arrowhead. The other one is the delay mark. Do you remember me talking about the delay mark?
The double hash, like a.
Yeah. So let's just click it and just see what that does. I mean, there wouldn't be a delay on this one, but just you can now see it. Nice. So if there are relationships where there is a substantial delay, it's worth using that to highlight it, because delays can cause big problems in systems.
Well, I know that it's probably going to be a little contextually dependent, but when you say like a big delay, what does that mean to you?
Well, it's not the length of the delay, it's relative to associated relationships in the vicinity.
Okay.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
So when we did that little example about hospital beds,
yeah,
you know, one of the things that we could have added there was we had available beds, didn't we? But we didn't put that what's influencing available beds is the total number of beds in the hospital.
Yep.
And of course, one intervention could be to purchase more beds.
That's going to take,
you know, we could, but that's going to take a lot more time than the other parts of that diagram where we got patients turning up. So we'd use this delay marker to emphasize that there will be delays in that coming into the system.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not about the amount, it's relative to the other relationships around it. It's just a rule of thumb, you know. If you're turning this into a calibrated system dynamics model, you'd have to specify that delay and what's driving it. And
like quantify it on some level.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Later on down the line, I think you're the sort of person who might get into that. So we can talk about that at another stage. But at the moment, all we're really wanting to do is to be able to create a good causal loop diagram.
Yep. Eism. Okay.
Doing where we click and then click somewhere to the side, just to make sure that we can make them more curvy. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. And you can see you can just keep moving everything around to wherever feels right.
A wise person once told me to not make things too curvy in the beginning because it's going to get a little soupy.
Exactly. That's too. Yeah. That's why I do leave them straight to begin with, because then when you move things around, because you're eyeballing it, and a lot of the time you start to do that, you start to move things to different places, because I hate seeing too many crossed lines.
Yeah.
And as you're doing this, uncrossing the lines as much as possible, is really useful.
So I'm sure when you looked at that Miro board, you felt really great. Like I feel like my nervous system kind of going like.
Yeah, but sometimes you can't avoid it, and you can't avoid it without, and there is a tool here that allows you to avoid it, and that is you can create something called a shadow variable. So you can create a copy of a variable, but then you lose the connections, you know.
So the copy of the variable isn't connected to any of the other items.
Hold on a sec. I've just heard something. No, it's Mark. I'll just let him know I'm talking to you. Okay. Yeah. So I mean, I think, you know, I can show you how to do that, but as much as possible, the idea is to try to avoid it, because then there can be connections there, but you just can't see them because you've lifted something and you put it going in somewhere else, so you don't see that bridge.
Yeah. Nice. Okay, that gets a little tricky, but you're a good guide.
Yeah.
Now here you can help me with something, because like, okay, like here we have employment rates, which is kind of like let's just say it's an amalgamation, or it's like some kind of composite of like these three factors, like the various kinds of employment we're saying. You know,
yeah,
all of them, and with it, because they're not really interrelated, so would it just be putting arrows into each one of these? I mean, I could say that, well, if you have higher local employment, it's going to reduce the amount of other kinds of employment, but
it's an interesting thing to say that, because that's one way of looking at it. Another way of looking at it is to say, well, what really drives employment rates? Isn't it about how employable people are and the number of local businesses? So it's that there's, well, I suppose we've got local, haven't we? As you say, people could be going outside the area or being employed digitally.
Right.
So these are kind of a breakdown, aren't they? It's sort of a breakdown of different forms of employment.
Yep.
And then I guess the sort of things that might drive those types of employment, like digital employment, you need a certain set of skills, don't you?
Yep.
So, and again, it could be that some of these can end up being kind of
hangy.
Not necessarily what we're trying, not necessarily what we're trying to get to.
Right.
It's what we're trying to get to here. It's that we're wanting, we came to this, didn't we, because we were trying to reduce commute times.
Yeah, we're trying to reduce commute times, but still, like, there was one other factor in it that brought this up, I thought. I mean, there is this whole like household purchasing power that when I look at the spaghetti soup, it's like pretty interconnected to it, just like you
said. Exactly. And do you know what? When you look at things and you see something like that, you see that they're things that I tend to call them hubs.
Yeah.
Because there's a hell of a lot of interconnections around it, and you can bet that if that's the case, there's going to be a lot of feedback around it, and right. a really good indicator that you should be paying attention to something, because it sits on a lot of feedback and therefore has a lot of leverage in the system, is exactly what you've noticed.
I like that. Even just that phrasing, like sitting on a lot of feedback, is really critical. And the reason I mentioned household purchasing power is just because like digital employment then becomes important because it like does help with the household purchasing power. Like, Amanda's got a job that she used to go into the office in Texas before COVID. She can get the job. It's like, I'm so glad she can. So it improves our household purchasing power and has all these positive effects. But how to make this all really, I see like digital employment, drivable employment, local employment, all driving to employment rates. I could make the argument that if there's local employment, that means that there's less drivable or like commuting employment or something. But I guess that's the point we want to make, because we're looking to reduce that, reduce the drivable.
Well, the other aspect of this is there's a point about, when if people are driving or digitally employed outside the area, there's still implications for how much wealth stays in the area. More wealth stays in the area when we work locally, and we can help ensure that wealth continues to circulate. Whereas if we're working for a corporation, I don't know, that's massive and outside, yes, we get our payments, but that's a small contribution compared to the fact that if the whole business is located there and is local, that's where there's a big difference made. But that's a different aspect. Here we're looking at it from the point of view, I know, of freeing up time.
Yeah, and when I thought about what you're saying, it sounds like it's and also bolstering household purchasing power. But I wonder, like, I'm thinking of like tax revenues and how those are impacted by like a business, actual corporation being located here. Because I appreciate what you're saying, because we get more local businesses growing, if that's what we want to call that. It has all these downstream effects.
Because the interesting thing there, isn't it, is if we ask that question, well, what makes a local business grow? Well, it's that people are spending their money with them. And wouldn't it be great? I mean, one of the great ways that you can get a really lovely feedback loop going is people realizing that if they spend their money locally, rather than having an Amazon or whatever else it is, some big corporation delivering stuff, you start to invigorate a really strong reinforcing loop to rebuild the local economy.
Yeah, well, let's see. I want to do this because I think this hopefully is going to illustrate the point here.
Well, I think rather than doing it directly, I'm going to illustrate another point with this.
Nice.
That is via local spending, isn't it?
Oh yeah, this was
So
a good point. So
yeah,
you have like the indirect versus direct, right?
yeah. So I would put an extra variable in there to make that point that
Mhm.
it's local spending, more local businesses growing. If that household purchasing power is going off to somewhere
Amazon.
else,
Yeah.
yeah,
Local
and
businesses.
people being able to see that is really, I think it's really important, because if they want a future for their kids, if they want their kids to have employment in that area and not have to be traveling and leaving and going and living at the other side of the world, to get employment, this is what we have to stimulate.
Yep.
It's why Mark is so passionate about local cooperatives.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. I
But
can't.
if we don't support them, if we don't support our local businesses, they won't grow. I mean, I've watched this happen in the town that I'm now in, and it's the town that I was born in, Wombwell in South Yorkshire. There used to be a thriving high street with lots and lots of different small businesses, all family owned, several different bakers that were making their own bread, but different butchers, greengrocers, all
Mm,
of these kinds of things. And what happened over time is the big supermarkets came in, big supermarket chains, everybody stopped shopping on the high street, all those family businesses disappeared, and all of the money is going outside this area. They
yes.
employ a few people, a few local, not to high skill levels. The majority of it is being taken elsewhere. We're not supporting and growing our local economy here.
Yeah.
And it's been happening for a long time. And then the whole high street starts to look drab. And the whole thing starts to decay because of this loop
I
that we're not taking care of here.
can see it like a straw, like sucking out the value of the place, and then like
Yeah,
the marking of that is like the drab, dreary
yeah,
boarded up, closed down.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's very interesting, isn't it? Because the digital employment thing is very interesting. If it's for an external corporation, some of that value will go off to that corporation, but will gain. That's the secondary one, isn't it? Because you've got, provided that person is putting time into the community in a different way and still spending their money locally, there can be still a big win from it, but not as big a win as if you're also being employed locally.
Right. Yep. Exactly. Yeah. And so then it'll be curious to see how that gets modeled in here, because I'm in 100% agreement with that. How that shows up, there's some more missing variables, I suppose, right? Like
Yeah.
um I guess it just, the digital employment just doesn't affect the local businesses.
Oh.
It does. Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, indeed. Indeed. Indeed.
Okay, so and let's see if we can get some kind of a closure on here a little bit. So like the local employment, I can say, is gonna support employment rates, and then maybe these are just dangles here. Is that what we call them?
Well, there will be to begin with. We might want to explore them later to say, what would drive that. But we know that certainly digital employment and local employment are going to reduce commuting times, don't we? And we know that was an important part. So we might want to put commuting times on.
Oh yeah, yeah, because this is then where, oh man, just finding the right way to spatially represent this stuff is funny.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry at first. I don't, you'll get the hang of moving this around, because I can see you're very very good with these sorts of computer tools, so I don't think there'll be a problem.
Okay, so drivable employment, we got to say, yeah, that does increase commute times, but then this one here is going to not.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say something here as well. When you close that dialog box, can you see already we started to get some cross lines? So I would pick up commute times and put it the other side of local employment, and then the drivable one as well. I'd probably position it a bit higher up, because the other one I can see will have, yeah, you see what I mean? So I'm always doing that as I go through. I'm kind of, I start reorganizing as far as possible so that I'm keeping some space, and I'm trying to make it as clear as possible.
Yeah.
And that's why keeping these lines straight is handy, because otherwise they start bulging out and you get all sorts of problems.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Well, I probably could have left digital employment where it was, because you're going to put that into commute times, aren't you, as well? Yeah.
It's about to.
So, yeah.
It's about to get a little crossy.
Yeah.
Okay. Kerry, can I just say, like, I feel very grateful to have you as a tutor, and you're really a joy to work with.
Well, I like working with you too, so that's it, isn't it? You know, when you can have something like this and it benefits both people, I really enjoy, you know, it's my main thing is wanting to pass on these skills to others, because I think, you know, it's really, really important. And that whole thing then of, you know, is do one, teach one, you know, handing it on as well.
Yep.
Is the only way that we'll get this to spread. Because, you know, we're all operating with these things. We all have these things in our heads about the way a system works, but until we make it explicit,
yes,
it becomes very, very difficult to have meaningful conversations about it at any depth. We can do it superficially and we can end up arguing and disagreeing. But when we do this, we start to see that, oh, if we all pool all our knowledge, just think what we might achieve.
Yeah, right. I mean, you know, Otto Schalmer's theory use stuff. He has that one quote of, like, if you want to change a system, help the system to sense and see itself. And, like,
yes,
I see how we're doing that through creating this ongoing updated artifact that we're calling the map. And then there's also the ongoing process of having the conversations that and doing the actions that then affect what the map looks like. So
yeah.
I don't want to put all my chips in the map basket, but it's super powerful and I love it.
The conversations are great, they're very necessary, but it's kind of a way of recording the conversation with some rules and structure so that we can drive it to making change, as opposed to it purely being a conversation. I think that's really important as well. Just have a go, just while we're on here, can you go to the, you know, the tools down the left-hand side? Yep. Can you go to the driver tree and just try right-clicking on it just to see if they've allowed anything? No. So that's all it does is what I got, just
rats.
Yeah. Forwards or backwards 2 levels.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Never mind.
For now.
Yeah, for now. So how do you feel about this? Are you?
I feel great. I mean, I'm gonna just
got the hang of it.
Yeah, now that the spaghetti soup situation is resolved by, you know, using this system, and just like having some of those good practices that you mentioned about, like, how to organize this. I'm excited to just, like, get into it, build this out, and then add more to it. And then I can find some way to share this with you, maybe take a screenshot and email it or something.
You can just email when you save this, it gets saved as a .mdl file.
Which you can read.
Which you can send to me and I can load into my Vensim and look at.
Cool, okay, wonderful.
So this is the interesting thing, you know, we have to do it like that. One of the advantages of Miro is that you can have several people looking at the same board at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Well, if FedWiki is gonna end up doing a thing, then, you know.
Yeah, indeed. That would be good, wouldn't it? That would be really good.
Well, I feel like this is a good jumping off point for me, Kerry. I would, if you have a few more minutes, I want to show you some FedWiki stuff, if that's okay.
Yeah, can I just show you one other thing? Can I show you a model that's very similar to this? I'm just going to share. I'm just going to find it. Here we go. And this one, I've not bent the lines, so you'll see it's still, yeah.
Got it.
So this has got some of the things that we've been talking about on it. It was for a different purpose. This was looking at a paper that was about social determinants of health, and me then mapping out the factors that they talked about, because they talked about them as a list, and it's not a list. These things are interrelated. So this was my attempt to map them out. So you can see here we've got some of the things we've been talking about, like secure employment, quality of education, income and debt, economic stability, affordable housing, access to affordable healthcare, the environment, food security, child development, stress, safety, by which, there was stuff about crime and things like that. So, this is, I can send you this. If that would be helpful. Yep. I can just attach it and then you can load it up and have a look at it. But it's very high level, it's a very high level thing. But I just thought I'd show it you because some of the things that we've been talking about are on it.
Yeah, that's really nice. And I have a bit of an axe to grind that I wonder what your take on this is, which is there's a lot of talk of the socioeconomic, the socio determinants of health, or the social determinants of health, and I've been seeing more and more that it's like a socioeconomic issue more than just a social issue, and I've been even as so far as to say like the biopsychosocial framework of health should be more like the socioeconomic framework of health. I mean, do you have any opinions on that?
By economic, you mean the financial part of it?
Yep.
Yeah. I think it's absolutely crucial. I think that both the little model that I just showed you and your model demonstrate how important that is.
Yeah.
You're muted.
It's honestly, it's kind of sad, right? Like
it is. Yeah.
You don't have enough money, now you're not healthy.
Yeah. Indeed.
Okay, cool. I'll stop with the axe grinding.
So did you want to show me something on the Fed Wiki, did you say?
I do, yeah. Let me get this going here.
And then the other thing I want us to do before we finish is to set up another time. So that after you've had some time to play, I think you said that you had some time on Monday, I might be able to find time on Monday as well. Because I want us to have done as much as we can and you've seen as much as possible so that together we can then discuss what is the best way of using that time you have at your board workshop on the Saturday.
Love it. Yes, thank you. Okay, great. So share screen. Fed Wiki. Okay. So I think I showed you this before. We've been putting in our different events that we've been doing. I don't know if I showed you this or not, but I'm excited to show and to demonstrate that we had our first event where we had some kids, and I was careful to like take a picture where you can't really see their faces, but here you can see we have actual kids in Leos doing a thing. So that was pretty
excellent.
I know.
It looks really lovely. It looks really good as well. It looks different to the last time.
Oh yeah, nice.
Yeah, the plants and gnomes.
Oh, you gotta have gnomes. Yeah, we've had the gnomes since the beginning.
Right, I didn't see them before.
Yeah, so that's been cool, and it's funny how like I've been doing this like marketing. This might turn into preparation. We'll see, but attendance, observations, and questions that were coming up for these events. And we've really been noticing the benefit of exploiting the local advantage, like posting something on Facebook people can do from a million miles away. Driving down the street and saying, hey, Leo, house is open. Like you can only do that by being face to face and
Yes.
you know. So
Yeah.
I happen to know these kids' parents and grandparents, so like it's not so weird for me to yell out the window and say, "Come on, kids, come over to live," and they can just walk down the street to get there. So
Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
stayed the whole time. They stayed for 4 hours with us, and Miracle
Wow.
did such a good job keeping them engaged and
Mm,
had some leftover pizza and they ate it
mm,
all and they were drinking a bunch of water and like we're just learning a bunch as we go, you know.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
having FedWiki as a place to capture this stuff because otherwise all this kind of just goes into like the soup of memory, you know, and some of it
Yeah.
is remembered and some is mixed up with other events. So anyway, this is just a
Well,
nice
how about, I mean, you know, the big things are always, you know, how can you get a reinforcing loop going in a positive direction? Because then you're leveraging the system itself.
uh-huh.
So, you know, what about these kids? These kids must have more friends.
Oh
How
yeah,
about they bring their friends and then those friends bring their friends?
there you
Yeah.
go. There you go. See one, do one, tell one.
Yes.
Yeah, no, you're right. And that was what our big encouragement was when they left. Like, bring your friends. Let's keep like this can be and they
Yeah.
like I thought there'd be more kids. Well, that's why you gotta tell your friends.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And, you know, I don't know, I mean, I'm loath to, you know, to try to incentivize that, but I don't know. What is it? Or ask them, you know, ask them what made them come and what would make their friends want to come to a place like this.
Ooh, what
Yeah.
would it make
What did they want from it? What would,
right?
you know, what would make it worthwhile for them?
Yep. Well,
Because we can make it up, but the best thing is to ask the kids themselves, isn't it?
which is part of the point of why we're not like over programming things right now with what we're doing there. It's like we're open, hi, and then using their own
Mm.
feedback to start to adjust it. But I think I'm gonna take you up on some of those additional layering questions because I know their mom and I can call their mom and I could say, hey, can we have a conversation about this with Lola, who's the oldest there in the
Yeah.
picture, and then see what we get. It'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, indeed, indeed. No, that's great. That's really good. That's really encouraging, isn't it?
It's very encouraging. Yeah.
Mm.
And also like in the future, one of these days when Mark is giving a presentation about FedWiki and they say, well, are there any communities even using this? Then Mark
Mm.
like, oh, well, you know what? And then
Yeah.
there's really something about like seeing even just a simple image, you know, and
Yes.
the notes of like this is like real human beings doing real things.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, I'm just noticing. Mark put another message and said, "Please, what can I see the recording?" So,
Oh yeah.
when you share it to both of us, if you would please.
Absolutely.
Be great.
Yeah, I'll probably do what I did last time, upload it to YouTube, and then also send Mark the raw file that I'll upload to a Google Drive.
Yeah, great.
So Mark, if
Excellent.
you're hearing this, we love you.
We do. So, shall we set a time?
Yes, let's do that now. And I think we're talking Monday, right? I think that'd be good.
Yeah. Your clocks go back, don't they, over the weekend?
Our clocks don't change.
So it's going to be, at the moment, yours don't change.
Nope. No, Arizona's the same.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
It just ducked out. Hello?
Uh-oh.
I can hear you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, our clocks do not change.
Right. So it'll continue to be 7 hours, because I think with Mark it's going to be 8 hours time difference.
But you don't change.
Yeah, we changed. We changed last week, which is why at the moment it's 7.
Right. Oh yeah. Okay. Cool. Well then, if we say 8 a.m. Arizona time.
Right. Yeah. That should be
3 your time.
Is that 3? It could be, well, it's 3 if it's 7, or it's 4 if not, but I can do either.
Cool.
So if we say that, I put it in as 3 UK.
And then I'll send you a calendar invite, and I'll include Mark, even though it's a little early for him.
Yeah, indeed. That sounds good.
Okay.
And in the meantime, if you want to send me anything, a model file, .mdl file, you'll see it's not the .to MDL, it's just the .mdl.
Just .mdl, okay.
Mm.
And I'm just getting the link set in there, so you don't need to ask for it, because it'll be in the calendar, because we're adults.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you, Kerry. This has been a lot of fun. And
good.
I know that this model is going to be expanding. So
yeah, indeed it is. It's going to be, I think that being able to do it on Vensim will help to try and keep it a bit clearer as well. And it's always really, it can seem like a pain to have to re-put a model back into a different piece of software.
Yeah.
But you provided you're engaged with it as you do it, you start to see things as well that are either missing, or you might want to change a wording, or you might want to add something in, so use that opportunity too.
Cool.
Okay.
Anything we missed, Kerry, that we want to talk about?
No, I think we're good. I think we're good for now, and we'll talk on Monday and see where we got to, and then think about what we need to do ready for the workshop.
Cool. Enjoy your evening.
You too. Enjoy your day.
Ciao, ciao.
Enjoy your weekend. Yeah. Bye for now. Bye.